Hey everyone, today I'm going to walk you through how to set up donations inside HubSpot. This is something a lot of nonprofits and organizations ask about, especially if you're trying to track donations, automate follow up, and keep everything in one place. I'll show you exactly how to get this set up step by step. HubSpot does have a Commerce Hub with a variety of payment processing and payment capturing tools at your disposal here. So, for example, you may be collecting large donations from sponsors or major donors. You might want to use invoices, for example, to help process a very large donation in the tens of thousands of dollars, for example. You might also be processing donations online, smaller donations like 5, 10, 25, etc. And in that case, what we're going to look at doing today is using the payments link tool. So when you see the Commerce Hub, you'll see all of the different options here. Payment links is the best option for processing digital donations through a landing page. Let me show you an example of this. This is a pretend page, donation page here, using the payment links tool to create buttons on the page that the prospective donor can use to choose which donation they would like to make. For example, if I were to click on this $50 donation, I am going to get a checkout right here for the $50 donation. This is going to be processed right through the payment processing system that you can set up with your own information, your own bank accounts, etc., right in the HubSpot portal in the payment settings. This is what we're going to look at setting up in this demo today. Let's go back and look at how we created these payment links. Now I'm here in the page editor for landing pages. How I got here was I went to the content area of the menu in HubSpot and went to landing pages. And this is where my donation page that I'm looking at right now is. So let's find that donation page again. I'm going to open it back up. And before we keep going, I just want to talk a little bit, just a sidebar about why you would use landing pages as opposed to website pages. Just put in a nutshell, think of website pages as more like informational pages, and think of landing pages as any page where you want your visitor to take some kind of action, whether it's a purchase or some other kind of conversion. That is the simplest way to think about the difference between landing pages and website pages. Let's say you don't have your whole website in the HubSpot CMS, and I'm going to go back again to the Content Hub here, because you can do that. You can have your entire website right in HubSpot. It's a fully powered CMS with security and anything plus more that you would get from an open source content management system or any other content management system. The benefit of it and the difference is that when you have your website in HubSpot, you have everything all in one place. But let's say you don't have your website in HubSpot, which is very common, and you might be wondering, why don't we just create our landing pages in our other CMS where we have our website, which might be WordPress or something like that? You'll want to have your landing pages on HubSpot because HubSpot, aside from being a commerce hub and a sales hub and a service hub, is also a marketing hub. And so you're going to be conducting your marketing activities and scaling up different assets in HubSpot for marketing. And you're going to want to tie those with your landing pages. You're going to want all of that in one place. So in other words, your landing pages are another form of marketing assets. Let's say you are gathering visitor conversion through a landing page for an e-newsletter subscribe, or you have something to offer them as a download. All of these types of activities, housing them in a landing page in HubSpot is going to be the way to go when it comes to scaling your marketing program. No problem that it's not on the same platform and with your other website pages. HubSpot gives you the ability to brand your landing pages and make it seamless in terms of your branding and the look and feel of your website. The other bonus of using landing pages in HubSpot is that it's a very simple drag and drop. And once you have a decent template in place, which there's not too much barrier to, if you want it to be a little bit more complicated, you may need a little bit of development help. The point is that you can set up landing pages in HubSpot and then make it easier for your team, your marketers, to create new landing pages whenever possible. That's our sidebar on using landing pages for your donation page, which is what we're going to be looking at doing here. I'm going to open that up again and show you how we built out this particular landing page. You've got here, typically on landing pages, we don't include the navigation because we really just want the visitor to focus on the task at hand. We want the visitor to be able to focus on what it is we're offering on that page, whether it's some kind of download or a sign up, or whether we want them to be taking an action towards donation. We don't want them to have any distractions from that. This is a theme sample. We just use it here for our demo. Landing page best practices would be fairly simple with the main focus on the action itself. And in this case, the action is donation. All right, without further ado, let's dig in more to how we set up the actual payments and payment processing for these donations. When I click into one of these button modules, in the left panel over here to the side, I have here the payment module, which I've dragged and dropped out onto the page several times to create different buttons. And it's very simple. So if I wanted to do it again, I would look for the payment module, which is a default module already built out in HubSpot, and I could drag that over and create yet another payment button. So that's how we got here. Let's go back over and look at one that's already been created. And so this one is a button for $250 donation. Using the payment module, we're connecting it to a payment link that we've created in the payment link section of the Commerce Hub in HubSpot. Once we drag out of the module and start to create our button, we can just click this drop-down menu and go to any one of our payment links and connect it here. Once we connect that payment link here, you'll see when we go to our preview of our donation page, we are going to be able to click on this. This is going to bring up that checkout for that $250 donation. As you can see, it's really pretty simple. There aren't too many steps involved in this. Before I show you a little bit more about how we can style these, make them look the way we want to, let's go back over to the payment link section and show you on the back end how we've created these buttons. So in this case, we have a different button for each amount of donation that we are offering up to our visitor. So let's look at an example of one. We'll just go ahead and edit this. I can show you what it looks like when it's already been created. Now, HubSpot also has a product library, and you could definitely use that to house your different donation products, if you will. Product doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a literal product. It's just the different types of things that you offer for sale, if you will, on your website. You don't have to create a product library because you can just go ahead and create a custom line item right here in the payment link, and you can skip that if you want to. The product library is just a way to organize all of the different things that you offer for a price. And so it could be a digital donation, it could be a t-shirt, it could be a number of different things. But also has service type library as well. So if you offer trainings, services, things like that as part of your nonprofit, you will also be able to offer those right through your HubSpot portal. You can create those services and then create payment links for those and put them on web pages or landing pages. So even if you're an organization that doesn't just take cash donations, for example, there are other tools that you can use to help organize if you have different types of revenue streams for your organization, like trainings or like swag type material and things like that. So for this one, again, we're skipping right over the product library. We're not putting the donations in the product library, the different amounts of donations. We just went ahead and created a custom line item. So when you do that, you can just give it a name. So maybe this is another recurring donation and it's for, let's say it's for $150. So we can put that there. There's a few different settings that you can look at here in the payments tool, depending on what your needs are for how you offer your donations. You can, for example, make this line item optional. We're not really doing that here because we're just doing one line item per payment link. Let's say you wanted to do multiple line items per payment link. You could do that, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But for this one, we're not making this optional. We're making it optional as a button on the page, but they can always choose a different button and not this one when they're on the page. So let's say this is a recurring donation. We want to make sure that since this is going to be a recurring donation, this is really important when you're setting up the payment link, is you want to say monthly. It could be quarterly, annually, but let's just say monthly. This is really important because this is how the payments that the donor processes or transacts are going to be made automatically going forward. So there's nothing you need to do once they click the button and go through the checkout if you've set up the payment link correctly. And so you wanted to make sure that you set the right billing frequency. If this is recurring, if it's one time, just leave it at one time. And then another important thing is to make sure that if it's a fixed number of payments, you set that up. Otherwise, it's automatically going to renew until canceled. So, in other words, if you put it on automatically renew until canceled, this is just an ongoing recurring donation that is not going to change until the donor requests that it be canceled. You can also delay billing start date. So, some of these are maybe not as applicable to if you're putting a button on a page, but they might be applicable if you want to send a custom payment link to a specific donor. Let's say you've had a discussion with a specific donor and they said, you know what, I really want to start donating $150 a month, but I don't want it to start until July, 6 months from now. You can also create custom payment links that you can only to send to specific folks. So this payment link tool is really versatile. You can either use the payment link on your landing page, or you can send it specifically to one donor as a link, and boom, they can go right ahead and process that. So there's different settings here that really give you some flexible options. Right now, we're creating a line item inside a payment link. I'm going to go ahead and say save. So now this one has 2 line items. And again, we don't necessarily want that, but I just want to show you what that looks like and how, when you make some of them optional, what that looks like on the payment link side of things. I am showing you the different ways how you can use the payment links, even without even embedding it on a landing page. So that's why we're going through in a little bit more depth on the line items themselves. So I'll show you here. If you notice, I added 2 line items. One of them I added is not optional. So it's this one is coming up. It's in terms of this checkout, the person is definitely going to do the 150. They could also add, if they wanted to, another 25, or they could remove it. So I just wanted to show you that's what that would look like if you wanted to add items onto just one payment link, but multiple items. You could make those optional, but I prefer a donation page like this. I like to have the different buttons that are totally separate so that the visitor can just choose one. And it will be very simple in terms of it'll be that item, and then they can continue with the checkout without any friction or any barriers on that. Whereas if you give them those multiple options that give them the option to add different things, that gets confusing for them. So if you're trying to give them a whole list of things in the checkout and then make them pick one, that might create friction and it might frustrate them. And so that's why I like to do it this way instead. So let's go back again and go ahead and open up that link again. So that's why when we do the way I'm doing it here is just one payment link, one item per payment link, and then they all become separate payment links that I can then put on the page. I want to show you how you can help the visitor put in their own amount so that we have the option of doing that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create that payment link again, create a custom line item, go ahead and say other amount, and let's say this one's the recurring one. And I want to allow customers to set their own price. So that's how you do that. Very simple, just a click of a button. That's why it's ghosted out here so that they can just go ahead and set their own price. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. I'm going to save this and add it. Now, the one other thing you need to do, because you might have noticed, I wasn't able to set the pricing model. Once I checked this button right here to allow customers to set their own price, I was not allowed to set the pricing model. So no problem though. Once I save that, I have another opportunity right here. I can set the billing frequency. So this is where I can say monthly to make sure that this particular link is for the other amount, but it is for monthly reoccurring. What's going to happen when you create a link? It's going to give you a few different options. As you can see here, you could use this as a QR code. Isn't that fantastic? You could get a QR code and place it anywhere, say a kiosk or some event in person, or many other opportunities to place a QR code. The QR code would go right to this checkout page here. Just imagine the possibilities if you're able to create some custom donation payment link and use the QR code. It's pretty cool. Additionally, you could place this payment link on another website. On your main website, if you wanted to have that say in the header, you just wanted a small donation button for a specific donation, you could place that link anywhere and using this embed code. No matter what you do, whether you have the link, the QR code, or the embed code, you don't even have to take any of these. All you have to do is close this out because the new payment link exists now in your HubSpot payment links area. And you can go ahead and let's just do it. Let's add it. So I'll show you how to add that. You're going to drag this out. Let's just say we're adding this additional link. And I'm going to go and pick that one that I just created, which I think is this one. I can go ahead and customize what I call that button. And I know that it's going to link to the button to the payment link that I choose in the drop-down menu, which is perfect. Now, you also have a few other options here in terms of if you're connecting this to some button on a page, you can have the checkout behavior open in a new tab. You could use the sliding overlay, which is cool. You could even add an icon to the button itself, and there are some default icons that are usually available, or you can replace it with custom icons. We're not going to add an icon to this one. We also have our styles here, so we can style this pretty much any way that we want to. So we can explore how we want to style that button and other types of styling there. So you really have a lot of options when it comes to how you want to style your page and style your donation buttons. Really, the sky is the limit here. It's just like any other website, web page. You have a lot of options in terms of how you want to style these things. We just have a very simple example here, but this is the one I just created. So you can see how I can put my own, like, again, let's say I wanted it to be a certain number. I can do that as the buyer or donor, if you will, or visitor. And then I would go ahead and fill in all of my checkout details. This is secure processing through HubSpot's processing system. You would go into your HubSpot settings to do all the technical back end of setting up your payment. It's really very simple. It would be like setting it up in any other platform like Fundraising, etc. Wherever you do payment processing, it's very similar. And then also too, we might want to touch on the payment and checkout settings because the settings are going to give you some potential further options when it comes to your processing nonprofit donations. It might give you a few more those options that you might be looking for in the settings. For example, let's go to settings. How I got to the settings for payments is I went to the cog up here at the very top in the HubSpot portal. You simply hit the cog. When you look over to the left-hand side, the menu here is going to give you all your possible areas for settings in HubSpot. So don't forget about settings. You may be over here in the menu where the tools are, but then the settings are like the underlying foundation where some important settings exist for pretty much every tool in HubSpot. And so in this case, we're looking for the payment processing settings. And so we're going to go down here to tools, all the way at the bottom under commerce payments. Now, when you want to think about the checkout page, if you recall when we clicked on one of these, this is the slide in checkout here. As you can see, we have all the branding for this generic nonprofit organization demo account that we have going here, but we have the logo for that. We have the colors, everything is here. And that all stems from the branding settings. So your HubSpot portal is going to have branding settings for across the whole portal. And so when you think about your checkout page, it's going to direct you to the right place to make sure that you have those settings set up, which we have already done for our checkout pages in our demo there. So now that we covered branding, let's go down to the actual checkout settings, right? So we've got the checkout settings here. And here's where you can just explore what works for you and your organization in terms of payment methods. You can see here, this is credit cards. We're taking credit cards for this. We're also taking ACH. If you want to add another currency, you can toggle this over and follow all of the prompts for that. You can also do things like store payment methods for future charges, and you can check that or not, just depending on how you want that to be for your customers. You can also do that, by the way, at the level of the payment link itself. So you can do it by individual payment links. You don't have to set this as the one default global setting right here. You can if you just want to make that a bit easier and not have to think about it going forward. There's also going to be billing and shipping type of settings in here, which gives you that versatility for different types of purchases. Say if you are selling some kind of product, if you will, you have some options there for that. Fees and policies is one that you may want to look at for your organization. Let's say you're used to using a niche platform for collecting donations for nonprofits, and it has some of those bells and whistles around, like, hey, we want to charge the donor whatever the credit card fee is. Well, HubSpot is a little bit more agnostic, if you will, when it comes to the payment tools. So they don't have that exact setting. But what you can do is you can still add a fee, and you can choose, okay, we just want to apply a fee if it's a credit card. And if you already know in general what that fee is, you can just add that fee amount in terms of a percentage. And then you can also give that fee a name. So what this will do is for every donor that uses a credit card, you can have a fee applied. It's just that it's not going to automatically calculate during the checkout process. It's going to be one set fee that you're going to set here in the checkout fee settings, but it is possible to charge them something for using a credit card. That's where you can set your fees and other things like policy. If you have certain policy or certain other messaging that you want to offer to your customer around this purchase, that's where you can turn that on and have some default messaging and things like that. Although you can also control this at the level of each payment link itself themselves. And then you also have some advanced settings just around pre-filling fields at the checkout using the contact information. It's really a very robust tool in terms of collecting payments when used in combination with the landing page tool, and being able to set up different payment links and have a checkout is a very versatile way to accept donations right through HubSpot without having to have a third-party integration or something that's not even integrated but separate. You don't necessarily have that workaround anymore. You could actually take donations right through HubSpot. While we're talking about it, in thinking about fundraising, we've really talked a lot about the digital donation, smaller donations, maybe even recurring donations, which you can all do all out of HubSpot using a combination of these payment and landing page tools. As I mentioned before, you can also use other tools in the Commerce Hub, for example. I mentioned invoices. You can use invoices for those larger donors, depending on your process that you have when collecting payment from your large major donors or from sponsors. Again, you have the invoice tool. But I also just wanted to mention to you that HubSpot is an all-in-one tool. So it has really every kind of hub you can imagine, whether it's sales, service, content and marketing, lots of marketing and content tools. But it also has a sales hub. You can use HubSpot as a fundraising because you have very similar tools to those that you would have in one that is focused on fundraising. You basically have what you need to walk through that large donor or sponsorship nurturing process by using the sales tools in HubSpot. So you can take notes, you can have a pipeline for walking through that process and the different milestones and steps that you have all of those tools in HubSpot as well. So HubSpot is not just for creating a landing page and having a payment processing to collect donations digitally, but it also has everything you need for fundraising as well. So I just wanted to point that out because I always like to talk about how you can use HubSpot to streamline your processes and spend more time on your mission and less time cobbling together all kinds of different tools. And this is one of the best ways that you can do that is by bringing your donation process right into HubSpot. So stay tuned for more of these types of demos from us, and thank you for joining me today.